What's up, everyone? My name is John. I own the largest laundry service here in San Diego, and today I'm going to tell you a story about how we beat Tide, yes, the national soap brand Tide, out of the local laundry market when they tried to come in and take over the local wash and fold service market, with us being one of their biggest competitors. So we did not do this with better equipment. We didn't do this with better marketing. We didn't even do this with better pricing, even though our pricing was better. We did this from two words, and those words were thank you. So in this video, I'm going to show you what worked for me in beating a national brand and keeping my medium-sized business from losing any dollars at all when a national brand came into the city. So Tide had came in about 3 years ago, and we were scared. We didn't know what this would mean for us. We knew that they had the resources. We knew that they had the firepower. We knew that they had all the science and they had everything backed. But one thing that we found out that we had in our pocket was relationships, and was the value of those relationships, and how we kept good rapport with a lot of our customers and a lot of our accounts. Lo and behold, we actually ended up getting Tide out of the city, and they ended up closing down because they were not able to make a heavy impact on the laundry market here in San Diego. So what I'm talking about in this video is my testimonial of how gratitude and saying thank you and appreciation works with growing your business, keeping your current business. And I'm also going to share some of the science as well in that. Now, when Tide came in, they came in with the big brand. They came in with billboards. They came in with drivers. They had laundry lockers. They were well invested and well ready to go. They had reached out to a lot of the people that I knew in the industry and had asked about our accounts, how to capture some of those accounts, reached out to different account managers in the city, and kind of poached them for meetings and stuff like that. Again, we were scared. We didn't know what to expect with such a big brand coming in. Laundry is dominated mostly by smaller mom and pop factions. And once we came into play and absorbed most of the market, all of our other competitors are more in the lines of being smaller mom and pop shops. We don't really have a big national brand like Tide who gives such a service. So this was a culture shock for us, and something that we had never been up against, and something that we didn't know how we should or could handle it. Lo and behold, we had already handled it because we had built such great relationships with a lot of our vendors. When we had asked our vendors, when we had asked our relationships that we had around the city why they stayed with us and they didn't end up switching to Tide, when Tide had offered them free stuff, free service, gave them all the swag, all the bells and whistles, gave them these big corporate presentations about how partner relationships would be better for them and XYZ, we asked why they chose to stay with our company and not go with the bigger brand. And what we found most of them said is, we enjoy working with you, John. We enjoy working with Dropment. We enjoy working with this team member from your team. And it taught me that those relationships and that gratitude and that appreciation that we showed throughout the year is way more important than any corporate presentation, way more important than any corporate budget. So in this video, I'm going to talk about what's worked for me in this particular situation. So again, we were happy that Tide ended up not being a huge competitor for us. And towards the end, they actually reached out to us for help and stuff like that. And those things we're not going to disclose in this video. But what I do want to talk about is the 5-layer gratification system that I use in my business. And I also have a bonus mindset that comes with that. I'm going to show you what's worked for me, and I hope it helps you as well. So the number one layer, the first layer of the 5-layer gratitude system that I use in my business with relationships with different vendors is called the universal thank you. So every customer that uses our service, whether it's a one-time door-to-door service customer and they're spending $40, or a huge customer that's spending $30,000 a month, everybody gets some form of thank you. So our smaller customers that are sending in, the minimum order of $40 per bag, I'm personally signing a thank you letter, and my team is bag stuffing it into their bag as a touch that I personally appreciate their belief in our business. Some science behind that makes this great and proves the concept of this is, in 2021, a study in the Journal of Business Research titled "The Value of Personal Touch in B2B Relationships" found these things. This is interesting. Personal notes increase relationship building by 34%. Recipients feel 40% more valued, and this also leads to 15% higher loyalty scores. This is also a crazy one, guys. If you own a business, this is very interesting to think about. CEO signatures increase repeat business by 17% and referrals by 24%. So as business owners, as a business owner, I'm always thinking about, how do I stand out? How do I stick out? How do I differentiate myself as being the best laundry service or the best business in this industry or XYZ? Signing a thank you note increases repeat business for my business 17%, and it increases referrals by 24%. Those are huge numbers by just signing a piece of paper. So in essence, what this first layer is telling you is small gestures lead to big impact, essentially. Now we're going to go to layer 2. I call this the top 50 protocol. I do this twice a year, and it does involve some legwork for me, but it is completely worth it, and I have the contracts as the evidence to prove that this concept has worked and has been amazing for us. So the top 50 protocol, twice a year, I personally deliver gifts to our 50 biggest partners. I do this mid-year, so about June-ish, July-ish, and then I also do this during the holidays. So like usually around December-ish when the holidays are happening. Could I delegate this to somebody, to one of my team members? I absolutely could. But the partners that have trusted us throughout the year and choose us for their business. Laundry is a very saturated market. They have tons of options, but they decide to give us their laundry. Okay, they believe in us. It is way more impactful if me, the CEO, goes out and does the legwork and personally hands them that gift, personally gives them that appreciation and gratitude. Now, remind you, my team throughout the year is also expressing this gratitude. I have this same theme with my team and giving it to our customers, and I'll go over that in another video as well. This is some cool science behind this layer too, okay? Harvard Business Review's 2019 study, The Power of Face-to-Face in Business, revealed these things. Face-to-face CEO interactions are 34 times more effective than email, okay? So another way, I as a business owner stand out just by showing my face. Here's some other cool stats based off that study. Personal leadership engagement shows the following: 67% higher customer retention, 55% more share of wallet, 86% higher likelihood of new opportunities. I can't talk about enough how I've given a gift to a customer that has been using us since the beginning for 9 years, and I was not aware of their profession or what they do or their job. And they say, John, thank you so much for the exit gift. They may tell us, I'm moving to a location that you guys don't service, so that's why I'm canceling my recurring service with us. I always try to catch those things, and my assistant knows to send them a gift, whether it's a gift basket or it's a charcuterie box. We use charcuterie boxes a lot. It's a thing of cookies. We use cookies a lot. On their last order, we make sure it gets to them. We make sure that the driver personally delivers it to them and tells them thank you. I can't talk about enough how many times that has led to, hey, I'm actually the city planner and we have this new shelter coming up. We'd love for your laundry company to take care of this building. We'd love for you to bid on it. We would never have been given those opportunities had we not taken that extra step of gratitude and gained that trust. And again, the science is there to prove it. I'm huge on science, huge on facts, and there's nothing better than personal evidence and also the facts in the literature. Now, layer 3, I call the consideration thank you. I never walk into a potential partner meeting empty-handed. My grandmother had a saying, and she would say, John, never show up empty-handed. And I still use that today in business and in personal. Now, the consideration thank you is about people that consider using your business or using my business. If they're considering us and we haven't gained the business yet or the contract yet, first impressions always mean a lot. So I always show up with something. I never show up empty-handed. Whether that's a box of cookies, a thing of donuts. Everybody loves Krispy Kreme. Everybody loves donuts. I might show up with some swag, like some shirts or like some sweaters or like, kind of anything like that. Before they say yes to us, they're experiencing how we treat our partners. And I want you to think of it like this. If I show up and I'm poaching my business to a board of people and they have 5 other people that are coming in after me, again, as I discussed before, how do I separate myself from the pack? How do I make myself seem like the best option? I need everything I can to prove that my business is superior. I have to control the controllables as much as I can. And showing up empty handed or showing up with something in hand is something I can definitely control. That small investment of that gift goes tremendously a long way. I would never show up without it. So with this particular layer, the consideration, thank you, the science behind this, the Journal of Economic Psychology's 2020 study titled Gift Giving and Business Relationships found bringing gifts to initial meetings did the following: increases deal closure by 39%, speeds up decisions by 27%, creates 44% stronger initial trust. I look at these numbers and this is not 1%, this is not 5%, this is not 10%. This is one of the easiest ways for my business to get an edge up and to be remembered and to be looked at in a different light than the 5 other people that are coming in and discussing their business and wanting to win their business, wanting to win the business of the people they're poaching for. I'm already starting on an amazing foot because my numbers, my percentages are increased. Deal closure, I'm increased 39%. Speed of decisions, 27%. Stronger initial trust, which is the biggest thing when creating relationships, 44%. Insane. So this is something that, again, I find a non-negotiable. Now we're going to talk about my layer 4, and that's the meeting elevation layer. The meeting elevation layer kind of ties into the consideration layer a little bit. Whenever I have a meeting with either current relationships or ones that are potential relationships, again, I never show up empty-handed. My tactic when I meet up with accounts that are already on board with us, I bring them some swag. I never show up without swag. I'll bring them sweaters, I'll bring them shirts, I'll bring them beanies, I'll bring them labeled cups, I'll bring them pins, I'll bring them all this cool stuff that they're going to keep around their office, whether they wear it or not, and it's going to remind them of that gift. Us as humans, reminders are so powerful in what we do every day. We tend to forget those relationships. We tend to forget what people have done for us. There's an old saying where we only remember the one bad thing people did, but forget the 99 good things. So with that, I want to make sure that the 99 good things are in their face as much as possible. So for layer 4, the meeting elevation layer, the science is as follows. The Advertising Specialty Institute's 2022 Global Ad Impression Study showed the following: 85% remember businesses giving branded apparel. Okay? Huge number. Items are typically kept for an average of 14 months. 3,400 impressions are made per item given. That's less than 1 cent per impression. That's just the math that I had done. It comes down to less than 1 cent per impression. So when I'm there and I'm looking at Google ads and I'm looking at Facebook ads and I'm looking at Yelp ads and stuff like that, and I'm seeing the impression cost and click cost and like all these things, how sweet would it be to have the impression cost be 1 penny? That's what I'm doing here. This huge number, 85%, remember businesses giving branded apparel. How do we stay relevant? How do we stay remembered? 85% is the answer in this one. Show up with some swag. Invest, find a good shirt company locally, find a good sweater company locally, have them print your stuff, put something cool and witty that relates to your business, and give it to them. People love rocking new stuff. Try to make it trendy, try to make it something fun. You don't want to just put drop mint laundry service. We have some cool stuff and some kind of witty sayings like cancel laundry day and stuff like that, and we try to make it more hip and more modern. You can do the same thing with your business, but that swag goes a long way. And if you're not comfortable with clothing, show up again with cookies or charcuterie or like some sort of thank you. Again, when I have meetings with accounts that are already ours, I like to show up with more swag, more clothing material, and more tangible gifts. If I'm doing a meeting with someone who's a potential client, I tend to do both. So I'll show up with clothing and swag and stuff like that, and then I'll also add, as an immediate gratification, a box of cookies for the meeting or a thing of donuts. I'll say, hey, it was a pleasure meeting with you. Take this as a token of my appreciation of your time. We'd love to take care of you. We'd love to serve you. So having that consistent gratification over and over and over and over again instills tremendously how I am the difference between everybody else that they're going to meet. Okay, so in short, guys, the meeting elevation, if it's an account that I already have, I will utilize more swag, more material. If it's an account that I don't have, I'll do some more cookies, charcuterie, some immediate gratification with the swag too. So I'm kind of hitting both edges, okay? Nonetheless, there's no right answer. Just be grateful, give it out. The last layer I call the payment transformation layer. And this is one of my secret weapons, okay? Have you ever went to pick up a check from a vendor and the check is huge. It's like between $1,000 to, I don't know, $100,000. Depends on your industry. I have picked up checks for as large as $50,000. And I always hear my grandmother telling me, John, never show up empty-handed, okay? This person's job, I want you to remember, is they're writing checks all day for $1,000 to, let's say, $50,000 a day. I don't know if they make that much. Some of these checks that they're writing, you don't even know if they make that much per year with how much they're writing, okay? They're doing their job and they're following through with what they have to do. Everybody's showing up and they're just taking checks, right? That's their job. The way that you separate this person, guys, to me, is one of the most important people. I can't give enough stories on when someone was late approving an invoice or someone was late inputting a certain receipt, and so it was supposed to delay our payment and stuff like that, where I'm remembered by this particular person because I exercise this layer of gratitude. When you show up to pick up a check, it doesn't matter the check, doesn't matter the size of the check, never show up empty-handed. I never show up empty-handed. I always take a box of cookies, a box of Krispy Kreme donuts. That's usually my go-to, or like a charcuterie box, anything like that. Every single time I pick up a check, I do my check runs on Friday. So if I personally don't go do the check runs and my assistant goes to do it, she knows that she's headed to Krispy Kreme and she's grabbing 10 boxes of a dozen donuts. And as she makes the round, she's like Santa Claus. She's passing them out to everybody that she sees. And this, like I said, this accounts payable person for this company deals with tens, if not 100 people a week writing them checks. How are you going to be remembered by one of the most important people in their company? The person that writes the check or is in charge of writing the check or processing the check is one of the most important people. How are you going to stick out for them? How are you going to stand out for them? How are you going to make sure that if you need a favor done or if you need something done extra, that they have your back and that they will do it? This is one of the ways. This is how you stand out. Again, bring some sort of thank you gift. Thank you for your time. We appreciate you getting it done. Make sure to shake hands every single time. It never gets old. The worst thing people can say about you is, man, that laundry company or that guy, John, they're just so nice. They're too nice. What a terrible thing for people to say about you. Sarcasm. You want people to preach how cool you are, how kind you are, how grateful you are for their business. It's going to be very hard for them to have any complaints about the way you do things after that, okay? Now, the science based off this is Cialdini had a landmark study, The Psychology of Reciprocity, published in the journal Personality and Social Psychology in 2018. This proved giving during payment makes people feel the following: feel more positive about transactions, rate experiences as more pleasant, view relationships as more valuable. One of my biggest words that I preach all the time is value. How do you bring value? Now, obviously, if someone's handing you a check for thousands of dollars, they're giving you some value. How do I give that value back? And I don't feel like that person doesn't feel like I just took something from them. Very simple gesture: a thank you, some gratitude, a gift. And this person as well is included in our twice a year gift giving rounds, where we make sure that all of our top accounts are personally giving gifts. These people are always included as well. So again, these are very big numbers. This is very big stats, and one of the easiest ways that I separate myself from the pack with making sure that my company stays at the top of the list of being remembered for all the right things. Now, here's the bonus mindset. And this ties in with gratitude, but it isn't necessarily a gratitude action. And this I call the yes mindset. This mindset is simple but extremely powerful. Say yes whenever possible and go above and beyond. When a client needs something extra that's not an inconvenience, it's an opportunity to show them why they chose us. And when I say inconvenience, I mean that word very delicately, in the sense that we can take anything as an inconvenience. Oh, this person wants me to call these extra 30 people for this, or do this, or do that. The inconvenience needs to be an inconvenience where it doesn't make sense monetarily. And that's after you exhausted all resources and all critical thinking in making those things work. But if you can figure something out and make it easier for the vendor, they're going to love you. And they're going to say, hey, that John guy, he always says yes. He always has a can-do attitude. Why would I ever shift vendors? Why, when we're cutting vendors, we're going into vendor cutting season, I want to keep John in his company because I know that if something pops up from my boss, he's going to help me solve it. As a business owner, I always remember one thing. I'm not just a laundry processing business owner. I'm also a problem solver for my customers and for my relationships. And going above and beyond and helping with their workload and whatever it is, they will forever be grateful and always remember you. I can't tell you enough about how many times a lot of our city contracts, local contracts, and government contracts went through cutting phases where they cut certain vendors, or they cut services, or they tried to maneuver pricing, and it's a very scary time. For us, we've always been steered clear because they know the very last vendor that they want to cut is us, and we've been able to gain that feeling from them based off all of this gratitude and the yes mindset. I had a situation last week where one of our vendors called and he said, hey, you take care of 300 of our patients, and you do the laundry schedule for them and this and that. The way that we get reimbursed through the city or the government, I believe, is we have to put all of these on individual receipts. Now, if they were to call any other laundry service in San Diego, I'm going to guarantee that that laundry service would say, that is way too much work, that's way too much time and labor, and that's not going to make sense. We're going to lose way too much money. Like, it's just not. Number one, do they want to build that out and figure out the process for 300 people every month? Number two is, how do you keep track of that? And number three, you have to do it to standard every single time. What I did is what usually my answer with the yes mindset is, you don't always have to say yes immediately. If you're not sure, you don't have to say yes. What you can do is you can say, hey, let me explore this idea with a few people that, build the automations for me, or my operations team, and let me make sure this is something that I can do for you correctly. I don't want to tell you yes right now because I don't want to lie to you. I want to make sure that what you're asking of me, I can do 100%. So people will respect that, and they'll usually give you a time frame. At worst, they'll say, when can you get me an answer? And then that that's your deadline to get it done. But what we did in this particular situation with the 300 people our vendor wanted on individual receipts and not billed as one bulk invoice is we actually created an automation in our payment and our order tracking software to where it spits out individual receipts into Word documents. We then collapse those Word documents into one folder, and then we email it out to them. Building that automation probably took me about an hour to configure, and then my offshore team, I don't know how long it took them to build, but I paid them $60. So an extra one time $60. I believe the automation to run each time is like 3 cents. So I'm paying like an extra $9 a month, give or take. So essentially, I did this huge project for this vendor of producing 300 individualized receipts for an initial investment of $60 and then a recurring payment of $9 a month to make them happy. And just for frame of reference, this particular account is $400,000 a year. So me investing an extra $9 into having more evidence of why I say yes and why we're the better option, no brainer for me. No brainer for me, worth the investment, worth the time. I would never say no to anything like that. Again, inconveniences need to be in the sense of monetarily, it doesn't make sense. You're running a business. The point of a business is to make money. Let's never forget that. But that extra chip of $9 to make this person's life easier. Nonetheless, my point is that whenever you can say yes to people, say yes as much as you can. You want to be known as the can-do attitude, the yes person, the get-it-done person, the person that your relationships know that they can depend on. And that all comes from the yes mindset. Let's try to say yes more than we say no. Now, here's the science behind this as well. The service profit chain research from Harvard Business Review in 2019 found the following: 41% higher customer retention with customer first flexibility, meaning that when you're flexible with customer requests, they saw a 41% higher customer retention, 86% more referrals from saying yes to reasonable requests. If I have a $400,000 account, they probably know other people in the space with similar size accounts. I'm increasing the likelihood of them recommending me by 86% just by doing this. Huge win. Last is an 89% customer loyalty increase versus the 24% standard response. Again, customer loyalty, customer referral, customer retention, all gold in me being a business owner that I want to keep as much as possible. And if me saying yes, me going through the 5 layers of gratification works for me, if I perform these things and I hit these numbers, it's amazing for me. So how this overall has affected my business and the impact of it, again, I talked about how we were able to survive the threat of Tide coming in and changing the market for us when we were the biggest service in San Diego. Luckily, we did not lose $1. We did not notice any sales going down. We did not lose one big account to them. We did catch wind of them poaching a lot of our accounts. We did see a lot of advertising around town. We saw a lot of vans. We saw a lot of billboards. They came in heavy, and they did what any corporate business would do. Kind of textbook poster child, big brand would do when they come into a city like ours. Us being a medium-sized business with a small business feel, that's the way I always think about these things, is no matter how big we get, I want to keep that small business feel. So the business impact for us is, with us using these layers of gratification and us keeping that yes mindset, our business became unbeatable. Tide could not come in and persuade any of our accounts to switch over to them or make the change over to them because they were extremely happy with us. And what we consistently heard when we asked, we don't mind asking. We say, why did you choose to stay with us? We really appreciate it. What was your determining factor in staying with us and not going with, a brand that obviously has more reputation than us, is bigger than us? And again, the biggest thing was, we love you, John. We love working with Dropmint. We love working with your team. You're very enjoyable to work with, all positive things. And again, that's based off the gratitude layer model that I talked about earlier, and also the yes mindset that we keep in our business and with our relationships. So a lot of our big contracts today, like I mentioned the story before, have come from different referrals where people remember that gift, when they worked for X company and then they get promoted, or they move to Y company and they need a laundry service and they say, oh man, I have the person for it. I remember John. But if you ask them if they remembered their cleaning companies, or they remembered, certain vendors for this or that, I don't know. Maybe they didn't, because they didn't have that gratitude model. They didn't do anything to separate themselves and show that they're different and show that they're better. But a lot of our big contracts today, I would say over 80% of them are referred based off relationships and situations that people have come from different companies. And that referral is amazing. And they know that we do well. The evidence is there. They've used us at their old company. We're plug and play at their new company. And the other thing too with business impact is, a lot of the times people in certain industries, certain niches, where they're nurses for seniors, or they're city workers for shelters, or like any of that, they usually hang out with other people in that niche, and they get to talking. And one person might say, oh man, I really hate our laundry service. I stayed extra hours because I had to wait for this, or I had to do that. When they meet up with, or they talk to, or they socialize with one of our people, implemented the gratitude model on, they say, our laundry service is really great. Do you want their info? John will answer right now. His team is really attentive. They'll answer the phone right now. They'll give you a quote by this time. They'll do X, Y, Z. So that referral on those larger scale accounts beats cold calling all day. You're gaining your brand identity is given much more trusted reputation from one of their friends or someone in the industry already. There's not much that can beat that. We really enjoy gaining business based off that model. It shows that the current person was truthfully happy, and then on top of that, the new person was referred by someone that they trust. So we're already starting on a good foot. And then when we show up, we just rinse and repeat our gratitude model, where we do the same thing with them. We do the meeting elevation, where we show up and we give the swag and we give the stuff. It's a flywheel effect where it just keeps going and going and going. So this was a testimonial for me on how we were able to keep Tide from taking a lot of our business. Essentially, I don't only use gratitude in business, but also in my personal life. Every successful business, in my opinion, is built on relationships, and these aren't just vendors to me. They're partners who believed in me and my business when we were nobody. And I think that's something that I value tremendously, and I'll continue to value as my business grows. Whether we go from a medium business to a large business to corporation, and we kind of go from there, I will always work really hard to keep this small business feel, to keep the craft gifts, to keep the cookie boxes, to keep the personalized signed thank you letters. I think that a lot of bureaucracy keeps people sterile and numb to the emotions that they should feel from really good services. And I want to make sure that that stays implemented in my business. I'm going to end this video with one of my favorite quotes. This is by a philosopher named Marcus Tullius Cicero, and he says, "Gratitude is not only the greatest of virtues, but the parent of all others." So I hope my story helped anybody. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments.